Uh,
one empirical thing I'm aware of. Have you seen anything about the United Kingdom?
like the country.
Okay, who's next in the room? What do you want? Shantastic.
Hey, buddy. Sorry, I'm a little nervous because I'm
Yeah, you
used to.
should be
Oh,
nervous.
yeah, I'm used to shit posting about serialism. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah. What?
Um. So
So?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go. I'm gonna.
What?
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Fuck you.
sorry. I'm just fucking with you. It's okay. Go ahead.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start off by saying like I don't generally have any particular problems with a public option. I think that the
Mm-hmm.
main benefit that single payer has is largely that overall it's probably more efficient and cheaper because you've got a single system, a single payer, and the marginal cost goes down like with each person that you're insuring. But that's like kind of the private company's problem. I'm not sure exactly how costly that would be. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
too versed in that. I think the main, as far as a justice approach goes, I want to clear up a misconception about single payer healthcare, which is that
Go for it.
generally speaking, single payer refers not to the fact that you've banned private healthcare, but that private healthcare doesn't really exist because everyone in the country is automatically insured. So
Yeah,
nobody's.
that was like the strongest thing. I think Biden was the one that said that. Or no, I think Pete was the one that said that. The idea is that you offer a public option that's so good that most people end up migrating to that anyway, and private insurance becomes pretty much unsustainable.
Oh yeah, but like the that would be kind of a gateway that a public option would afford you.
Mm-hmm.
But the main benefit that single payer has is that yeah. So the public option, you would have people migrating over naturally, hopefully, because ultimately private companies are going to be finding ways to like not make payouts, not to actually cover their customers
Which
because that's how
to
they make profits.
before the ACA, they pretty much already did that, right?
Yeah, no, that's what they have been doing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what they will continue to try to do.
Yeah.
And I think the main, from a justice standpoint, the main argument for single payer over a public option is that there are people who are going to opt for their private insurance policies that are covered by their workplace instead of the public option. And if those people have pre-existing conditions and they run into situations where they need a payout and their company doesn't provide one, they might wind up being fucked.
So I'm
And
gonna appeal a little bit. I'm gonna pull my little capitalism efficient market hypothesis shit out here. My gut take is that that's not going to happen. That if a few story, my gut take would be that if there was a good public option that was actually available, I think that those private plans would become a hell of a lot more competitive because it only takes a couple stories like that to come out where people are like, holy shit, I'm sorry, Bert. Where people are like,
plus,
fuck this shit. I'm just gonna switch over to the public option. Like if you're gonna really play this dumb shit where you're like not insuring people and it costs me nothing to move over to like a public option, I'm just gonna fucking switch. Why the fuck would I sit here on your bullshit ass private plan and then end up not getting covered? I feel like that would be the more likely thing to happen.
I think that is entirely possible, entirely plausible. I think that the problem there is and this is actually kind of where we're going to largely agree on things, where
Mm-hmm.
public option is ultimately going to lead to probably the death of private insurance
Good.
either way.
Amen, brother.
If
I'm
they
okay with
start,
that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, burn in chat, please. But like essentially, if they start covering and paying out to their high risk patients, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to stop making money and they're going to start choosing other areas. Probably move further towards supplemental insurance, and people are going to buy into the public option plan. At which point, it will probably evolve into a single payer plan.
Sure,
Um,
that path sounds fine to me. Much the same way that if you were to come in here and say, "I want to make the country socialist," I tell you to get the fuck out. But if you were to come in here and say, "Here's a whole bunch of reforms that make us more or less a social democracy like Sweden," and maybe at that point, at some point, people are actually like, "Hey, I don't really want capitalists in this country anymore. Maybe everything should be public." I'll be like, "Oh, sure, yeah, if that's the path you want to take, that's fine." I think that's totally okay.
yeah. But like, so the main thing that I also wanted to not like I generally speaking, I'm okay with public option, but I also
Mm-hmm.
think there are some unfair critiques of Bernie's plan.
Sure.
I don't think that banning private insurance is generally a good meme.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, single payer countries, most of them do have like there's like a distinction between single payer insurance and single payer actual healthcare. For example, the NHS is entirely nationalized healthcare, while say Canada or Belgium are
Mm-hmm.
single payer insurance countries where if you live in the country, you are on the Belgian mutuality.
Mm-hmm.
And you are able to have supplemental insurance. And what supplemental insurance means is different country by country. So, for example, in Belgium, I'm pretty sure that Partenamut, which is the mutuality, covers things like dental,
Mm-hmm.
things like I don't know. I think we have a copay for prescriptions,
Mm-hmm.
and we get reimbursed for those a little bit.
Yeah.
And there are different sort of ideas, different sort of ideas of what the single payer system covers.
Mm-hmm.
All that it really means is that there is a national health insurance system or a national healthcare system,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, by virtue of being either a citizen or just a resident of the country, is automatically enrolled in that system.
Yeah.
Whether that means that there are private insurance systems kind of depends on what single payer covers itself.
For sure. And I think it's more or less the same. I think that's more or less the Nordic model of healthcare as well. I'm pretty sure that's more or less the same,
Yeah.
right? And that everybody in Sweden is
Yeah, pretty
automatically
much.
enrolled in their healthcare shit. But if you want to
So
buy more or whatever,
yeah,
you have the option to do so.
for sure. But mainly that's to say, like, banning private insurance is kind of draconian.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as saying that, like, Medicare for all and putting the entire country on single payer, that's not actually that radical compared to EU plans. It's not like super. People who are saying,
Okay, hold
like,
on.
it's to the
When I
right
say that
is,
it's radical compared to EU plans, what I mean is that it's a bit more extreme compared to EU plans, which makes it insanely radical compared to where we're at right now in the United States, right? It
yes,
is. Come
and
on. Like
it's more than
even a
some
European
EU
public
plans,
option
but
plan is like extremely radical compared to what we have in the US. Even the
oh yeah,
ACA was
yes,
even
yes, yes.
fairly radical compared to what we have. That was major
Sorry. It
legislation.
is.
Yeah.
It's Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Oh
answering
yeah,
a
I
different
understand.
point
Yeah,
in
go
your
for it.
earlier statement.
Mm-hmm.
It is radical compared to the American plan. It's not radical compared to a lot of EU plans, because a lot of EU plans do have systems where effectively private insurance companies only cover cosmetic surgery, where you have a national insurance system that covers dental, covers optical, covers
But
prescription.
I
A
don't
lot
think
of
it's
people,
like that I don't think it's like that like in Sweden. I think you can have duplicate insurance. It's
maybe
not
not
a
in Sweden.
what?
Maybe not in Sweden.
But
I
like
don't
for the
know.
United Kingdom, for the NHS, can you have insurance that covers also like what your NHS shit covers, or do they literally ban it? You can only get insurance for like cosmetic stuff.
You can only get in. I'm pretty sure, because the thing with NHS is
Yeah, people are
that
saying you
the
can't. I don't
entire
know.
healthcare system is national.
When you say that, you mean like all the
The
hospitals are public as well, right?
Yeah, all the hospitals are public essentially as
Sure,
well.
but you can still buy
So,
another private insurance plan on top of your. Well, no, wait. There are private
um,
hospitals in the UK as well, right?
there are I think so. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
there are. People are saying
I
yeah, there
won't
are private
comment on the
hospitals
NHS.
in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't comment on the NHS large, like, as far as how private healthcare and how private health insurance factors into that. My best friend's actually a doctor in the NHS, so I might ask him. I'm seeing him next
Mm-hmm.
week. Um, Yeah, actually, I was wondering if I could ask you a question about a different topic, a different Twitter take.
Yeah, go for it. Oh
Um,
no.
Wait, what was it?
That's just defending
It
Twitter destiny.
was
That's a challenge sometimes, but go ahead. He's a good friend of mine, so whatever he said,
yeah.
I'll give you a good interpretation of it. What?
Oh, sorry, your friend's Twitter take.
Yeah, Twitter destiny. What do you got?
You were mentioning, right? College. We were talking about free college, or
Oh,
you
the
were talking
roads
about free
versus the
college.
college thing, yeah?
Yes. So the roads versus college thing. I think that's an apt analogy, but it leads us to kind of a deeper question,
Mm-hmm.
which brings us to the. I'm trying to just quickly bring in, like, what exactly my reaction to that was. Right. Here we're talking about, like, a very big change in sort of the elasticity of demand for public college by wealthy people, and there's a difference between your substitutes to consumption in terms of, like, public versus private college, and then also how much income you have. That's also going to change the level of elasticity you have.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about how likely you are as a poor person to get your kid into college, I'm coming at this from kind of a consequentialist perspective. Well, the
Sure.
bottom line question is, as a poor person, am I being put in a position where I can send my kid to college?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like your argument is that if we make college free for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
then wealthy parents are going to send their kids to public colleges for free, and that's going to take up slots that poorer working class Americans can't send their kids to. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So the other frame that I wanted to come at this from, and this was I'm kind of parroting Michael Brooks' take on this, and I think he put it very, very well, which is that the appeal of free college is that, kind of evidenced by things like voter ID, things like the ability to get a driver's license,
Mm-hmm.
and the administrative processes that poor people have to go through that they don't necessarily have time for.
Mm-hmm.
Income certification and qualifying and doing the work to qualify for things like free college are arguably, and I think there's a really good argument to be made that those are administrative barriers to access that a lot of poor families are not going to opt for, and they're just going to say, "Listen, you graduate high school, just get a job and support the family."
Yeah. So you're agreeing
And,
with me, or
no, no, no. So what
wait? Because
basically I'm saying is
that sounds like the exact argument that I'm making.
no. So what I'm saying is that a across the board free college plan, what
Hmm.
Brooks is saying is that an across the board free college plan, no paperwork, no bullshit,
Hmm.
is basically saying, okay, chat's going to mute now. The no paperwork, no administrative stuff, no qualification process. What that's going to do is it's going to take the paperwork and the admin out of the way for the poor families, and they're just going to be able to, if they want to send their kid to college, like a kid got into college, they're just going to be able to send their kid. They don't have to worry about certifying their income, filling out a FAFSA form. These are things that they don't have to worry about. They automatically qualify. If your kid gets into college, they go to college. And so that's the argument
Yeah. Okay. So
for.
so I understand this general argument. So I'm going to use an extreme example here. Let's say that I subsidized the opening of like a Charles Schwab account, and I made it so that anybody could like the cost for opening this type of account would be free or whatever. I don't know if Charles Schwab charges commissions to open their accounts, but let's assume they do. If I were to make that type of thing subsidized by the public, do you think that all of a sudden poor people would be jumping on board to like open Charles Schwab investment accounts, or do you think that this would be like this type of subsidy would mainly be utilized by wealthy people? Because that's kind of what I'm getting at with the college thing, is that there are barriers to entry for college that aren't necessarily just the administrative costs for going to school. That if we were to make college free, 100% free for everybody in the United States, that if we could, okay, holy shit. I wish I would have taken a formal econ class. I don't want to draw this. We're going to imagine some graphs in our head, okay? Are you ready?
Oh, okay, fine.
If I were to take like a person who's from a middle class family, okay, and I were to draw like a demand curve based on the price of college for this person, that as the price for that college approaches zero, the demand for the consumption of that good is going to dramatically increase. Because for like a middle class, decently wealthy person, pretty much the only barrier that they'll have to college that I can think of is probably going to be the actual cost to go. Do you think that's fair?
Um, Yes, but I would say that I think that as far as your elasticity changes, the elasticity of college,
Mm-hmm.
specifically speaking, the elasticity of public college demand, I think that changes heavily the lower the income bracket goes. So,
Well,
for
okay, well, hold on. We're not
example,
there. We're not there. We're not there. I'm only a middle class
okay.
people right now. You agree with me that if you have like a middle class, decently wealthy person, that as the cost for that education approaches zero, the demand for consumption of that is going to dramatically increase, right?
The closer it gets to zero,
That a middle class
yes, but
person, that financially, their main barrier to going to college is probably like taking on the debt and everything, but more or less that like,
I would say the quantity the chat's being
don't worry
pedantic,
about it.
but
Don't
it's
worry about
it's
chat. Don't
valid.
read
It's
chat.
valid.
Just listen to me,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah.
So the quantity demanded is, I would say, actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna rephrase yours. I'm gonna change your statement a little bit. I'm
Okay.
gonna say that the quantity demanded for college, generally, the propensity to purchase a college education, no, specifically sorry, I'm going to rephrase, the propensity to purchase a public college education as opposed to a private college education, that is going to increase dramatically. So middle class people are probably going to opt in a lot to free college over sending their kids to private college for sure. I don't know how many decently
Okay, wait, wait,
wealthy
wait,
college
wait.
educated middle class people are
I,
going to opt not to send their kids to college if they can't afford it. They'll probably take backbreaking loans. And I think generally that's a good argument for saying that their college should be free as well.
okay, that all of that gets way too into more stuff that I don't care about. All I'm saying, yeah, because I don't even think there's a meaningful distinction between like private or public college right now. So I don't even care to like address those differences. Okay, what I'm saying is that if you have a middle class person and college costs $1 million, okay, and then college could cost $0, that if we were to trace their so the quantity demanded or whatever, I guess, if we were to trace the demand to go to college or their consumption of that good, I guess. The demand. What? Somebody tell me the econ terms
We're,
used. I
we're not
use
going to worry
demand.
about semantics.
Okay,
If
sure.
you say
Okay,
demand,
okay, 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 okay.
if
So
you
then the
demand,
demand. So then the demand for that at $1 million
okay.
is going to be almost zero, right? But the demand for that at $0 is going to be almost one. That like a middle class person, if they have the means to send their kid to school, which most should, that if it costs zero, then almost everybody will probably do it. If it costs infinity, then everybody probably won't, right?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. So what I'm saying is that if you take a very poor person, okay, and we graph their demand on the same line, okay, that if we make college infinitely expensive and we bring it to $0, that eventually there's going to be some level where the quantity demanded, even at $0, is still not going to reach 100% because poor people have other barriers to entry before them that keep them from going to college rather than just the cost of education. That might be a kid that needs to stay home and work to help their family. That might be a kid that got somebody pregnant in high school and can't afford to not work through college, so has to work a job. That might be somebody that lives in an area where they can't relocate to go to college or something because they're helping family deal with things or babysitting or whatever, right? That there's going to be more barriers in front of poor people that are going to prevent them from consuming college, even if it was given away as a no-cost good, rather than a middle-class person that could do it. Do you generally agree with that, or do you think that I'm off the mark there?
No, I think that is a correct statement. I'm going to say a couple things though.
Mm-hmm.
The middle class person sending their kids to college, I think that their elasticity of demand is pretty heavily tethered to their actual ability to pay. I think it's a fair statement to say that most middle class, like probably college educated people
Mm-hmm.
who make a fairly decent amount of money, they're going to want to send their kids to college if it doesn't absolutely break their
Yeah.
backs too.
Well, so I agree with that right now. But if you made it free, you would run into another barrier. I think for middle class people, if you made college free, the consumption of that would probably almost always match. Like if they want to go to college, they'll go. But I think if you made it free, I think there are a lot of poor people that even though they want to go now and it's free, they still wouldn't have the opportunity to do so.
I think that is a valid critique of free college,
Hmm.
but this is where I'm actually going to go a little to the left and say maybe that's not radical enough. What we need
Closing
is like a Norway style
parenthesis.
stipend in which we're subsidizing people to go to college in order to take that financial burden off. I think that actually is an argument that pushes us a little further to the left because I want those middle class families to be sending their kids to college because those middle class families um, these probably aren't people who are making ridiculous amounts of money.
Hmm.
If you're not able to send your kids to college, I don't consider that to be making ends meet. So if
Sure,
you're
I don't
somebody,
think I necessarily disagree with that. That if you find out whatever equivalent wages that person could earn working and you pay them that stipend to attend college, and then as long as they maintain their grades, they're paid out that much, I think that would be a fair addressing of that. Sure.
yeah, but I guess my argument is that um, that is a process of removing barriers to entry
Hmm.
that I think that making no questions asked free college as a policy generally does without any like particularly substantial negative consequences in
Oh
life.
yeah, that it's possible that would. I guess my only problem is, and I don't think I'm against free college. Also, by the way, well, I don't know. There are a couple weird things. My problem is that like if we incrementally move towards single payer, I think that right now, I think that moving towards a public option is superior than what we have for single payer, and that moving in that direction would be good. Even the process to getting there, it's kind of like evolution. Like every little step along the way, hopefully benefits you more. However, doing like massive loan forgiveness right now, I would have to, man, maybe I should spend more time digging into the numbers, but of the ones that I looked at so far, it kind of seems like we're paying a huge subsidy for rich people. It feels wrong. Like all of these people that now have their degrees, whose earnings are significantly boosted over high school earners and whatnot, all of these people are now going to have all of their education and everything subsidized. And it's like, well, hold on. These are like our highest earners in chat. Why are we subsidizing all of their loans? Like if you went to med school and you're a doctor now, clearing like a $250,000 a year or some shit, you're a surgeon or some shit, even more. Why am I paying for? Why are we subsidizing the cost of education? Like you made a significant investment in your education, but it paid off, and now you're reaping the rewards of that. I don't know if like that quintile, like those top two quintiles of earners, need to have their student loans or the cost of education for their children subsidized. It just feels so strange to me.
So this is where I'm going to double down harder on
Mm-hmm.
the administrative argument
Sure.
that in order to qualify for college loan forgiveness, I've had to jump through 6 hoops and a half to try and get my loans refinanced. and ultimately figuring out that most of the people who wanted to refinance my loans, if not all of them, were just kind of people looking to make an extra $600 in flat fees and not actually reducing my debt at all. And the reason I looked into those, sorry, anecdotal, but the
Yep.
reason I looked into those options was that I feel genuinely like the debt that I am dealing with, because as a fucking stupid ass 17-year-old, I decided to get a mad expensive private school music composition education. Um, I now feel a little bit crushed by a relatively small amount of debt compared to a lot of the people I know, but it's
Wait,
still a
so
lot of debt. Mm-hmm. So basically, like the where was I? Oh, right. So the thing is that I
here,
kind of have to
can I
jump.
ask a
Go
question?
ahead, go
Because
ahead.
I'm curious about this. Okay, so let me state these two positions first. Firstly, good job on your education. I went to school for music, okay, and I love music. Secondly, the idea that you should only go to college to get a high-paying job is bullshit. Okay, I think the
Oh no,
acquisition
I
of knowledge.
absolutely
Oh yeah, no,
agree.
I'm stating that right now because people are going to attack
Yeah.
me for not believing that. Okay, I think that going to school just for the acquisition of credentials to get a better job is bullshit. I think there's a ton of value in the humanities and the arts, so much more than the average STEM dipshit gives credit to. Okay. However,
Pepaloo.
would there ever be a fear that we would see a massive consumption of these types of degrees if all college were free? Could that start to lead to some pretty bad outcomes? If we saw, for instance, like a huge shift of people going to school for things like arts degrees and whatnot that couldn't get jobs or anything with it, or couldn't make any kind of career, whatever, if we were to start to see that happen because the consumption of that good is free, would that happen?
Um, Maybe, I don't know. That's that. I'd have to think a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
And probably that would be a good question to ask people who know more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The
but
one like one empirical thing I'm aware of. Have you seen anything about the United Kingdom?
like the country.
Well, so fuck. We should actually read through this whole thing on stream because it's insanely interesting. But the analysis that this study had given was that apparently in the United Kingdom, their education used to be completely free, but then they started to. But now it's not anymore. In the United Kingdom, you have to actually like pay to go to school. But that when they instituted those price gates or whatever, I don't know if that's a real word, price gate. But when they started to charge for college, like every single thing related to college in the UK started to increase. That like inequality started to fall. That the consumption of these colleges was much better. That like everything related to it started to get better when you actually started to put like premiums on going to college. Oh fuck yeah, I don't know. We should read into this in details. Like,
Yeah, the when they upped the tuition to 9K.
mm-hmm.
I was, by the way, chat. I was kidding. I grew up in Europe. I know what the fucking United Kingdom is. The Yeah, no, that I haven't really looked into the effects of that.
Mm-hmm.
Highly anecdotal. Like all of my friends were really pissed off about it
Mm-hmm.
because my all of my high school friends went to UK schools, and the tuition increase happened halfway through our education.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, "I'm gonna have to pay 9K per year," and I was like, "Huh." You have to pay 9K per year. Look at my tuition and then relative privation and stuff. But yeah, no, I don't know much about that specifically. But to address the generally to address the thing about debt cancellation,
Mm-hmm.
um, the thing about debt cancellation is that it's easier to cancel poor people's debt if you just cancel all debt instead of creating a qualification barrier. And the difference between this and, say, Medicare for All is that Medicare for All would be paid for by a middle class tax, while specifically debt cancellation, at least the way every progressive politician is putting it,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they're telling the truth, that debt cancellation would be paid for by Wall Street taxes, wealth taxes, estate taxes. Basically, all the people whose kids are getting their debt canceled,
Mm-hmm.
they are paying for it. They are footing the bill for their kids and for everyone else's kids as well. And so ultimately, what you're getting is a system in which the wealthy are footing the bill. And the fact that we're canceling the rich kids' debt, that's just reducing the burden on the rich a little bit.
I would have to see how those taxes pay out. I need to read more on the financial transaction tax ideas because the little bit that I've read on it so far makes it seem like a disastrously fucking horrible idea. Bernie's tax on speculation, that it would dramatically decrease the amount of like derivative trades that go on, which would dramatically decrease the amount of revenue that these taxes would actually raise, and that would also have possibly a negative impact on some sectors of the U.S. economy that would be offshore to other banks. So for instance, like I think
Yeah.
Sweden tried to implement a financial transaction tax, and it caused like a 98% decrease in volume in certain types of trades, and all of it just moved to the London Stock Exchange. So I would have to look more into like funding it through those means, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm also generally fairly, I'm tentative on things like corporate taxes and Wall Street taxes because I don't like to get interfering in like basic market activity. I
Mm-hmm.
think that Wall Street we should generally treat with like things like regulation, things that we can actually use to properly rein in problematic Wall Street behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
and then things like speculation taxes really rub me the wrong way. Even as a capitalist skeptic or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's not necessarily a good thing for our economy. But I don't know enough to actually have like a proper opinion on it. It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
bothers me. To me, I think the most sensible way to pay for this sort of stuff is with things like wealth tax and estate tax. Um,
Sure. I don't know how much an estate tax would actually raise. I don't know how I feel about a wealth tax. Maybe. Um, what what was I going to ask? Is it actually true that passing something, like I don't know how you would test this. Is it actually true that like passing something that universally forgives debt, that would be easier than passing something that just forgives like debt of poor people? Like, is that actually true?
I figure what it would be is essentially that the government would because most of I presume most college graduates already have a FAFSA file, and we already have things like not plus loans, but the unsubsidized student loans that we've taken out, or whatever Pell Grants that we've received. Any student who has taken out any kind of loan probably has like a Fed loan file. I would assume every single student does who has taken out a loan has a Fed loan file. And so what they would do is they would probably go through those bureaucracies, and they would just go essentially the government would pay out of its own budget. It would pay Fed loan presumably like directly, and then we wouldn't even have to worry about the administrative factor of like finding out who has loans and
Mm-hmm.
figuring out like getting in contact with people. I'm pretty sure there's like probably a pretty centralized directory of like who has outstanding loans and just paying off those loans.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'll think about it more. Okay.
Okay.
I love you, buddy. I appreciate the
Um,
conversation. What?
Thank you. Can I just do a self plug?
Fucking do it, dude. Plug away.
All right. Hey, do you like Super Mario 64 speedruns? If so, wait, do you like someone who does them shittily? If so, follow Shantastic 93 on Twitch. I stream semi regularly, and I do over one runs per stream. So check me out.
Wow. Nice
All right,
job.
thanks, buddy. Love
Thanks,
you.
bud. What, who am I dragging in? K Comrade or some shit?